Thank you, Jacob. Awesome. Any questions from the board?
More of a comment, but Mike, you go first. I'm tying this to a policy because we've been talking about making sure we're always tying them.
Yeah, I was just
Policy,
wondering if you had a timeline, Jacob. I mean, has the process started? Obviously, you talked to the principal, but have you sought donations or anything like that yet?
I have to get approval first
Okay.
from you guys, and if I do get approval, I'll go to the donations or the fundraisers, I guess.
Okay.
I'll probably think about having this done before school starts so the elementary kids could be like, "Hey, this is new." Any more questions?
Okay, so first, just as a comment, Jacob, I think it's a great project, and I appreciate it as a board member. And so, as a board, we have policies that we want to make sure that we're always referring to when we decide is something a good idea for our schools. And we have a policy that says Othello School District, in partnership with the community, commits to providing that every OSD student shall, one of the items is, be inspired to contribute to community and society. And so this fits in nicely to our ends one policy, and I think it's a great idea for you to do it, and you have my full support.
Thank you.
So Jacob, thank you again. I think it's an amazing idea. I appreciate your presentation. It was well thought out and really provides no questions for me to ask other than to ask the board if we could give Jacob approval for this project.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, that's 3 yeses. So you have the go-ahead to move forward this project. And so thank you so much for what you're doing. I think it's commendable that kids your age are giving back to the community this way. So thank you.
Great
Thank
job.
you.
Great job.
Moving on to item B3. Eric LaFontaine, if you could come up and share with us. I think you have some ideas for a new paper in town.
I do. Can I not use the microphone? Is that fine, or do you need it for recording?
We need it for recording. Thank you.
Mind if I also scan?
That's fine if you'd like.
Push and hold?
Yes. Maybe.
Mike, it's always an issue.
It's just working.
And that's a tough act to follow.
Hello. Hello.
All right, you got that. Thank you. My name is Eric LaFontaine. I am publisher of the Columbia Basin Herald daily newspaper in Moses Lake. I am also publisher of the Sun Tribune newspaper, which is a weekly newspaper that we started up down in Mattawa and Royal City about a year ago. I am also former publisher of the Othello Outlook newspaper here, and I spent about 8 years in that post from 2007 to 2014, which is why I'm here. The closure of the Othello Outlook, as you know, last week was, for myself, and I can only speak for myself, it was very painful, and I have no doubt that those here in the community have really felt a pretty large loss with having a 108-year history of being able to tell the story in Othello, having that possibly go away. So because of the resources I have behind me with a number of employees, I have a phenomenal reporting staff, I have circulation staff, I have editors, I have sales staff, I have all these people behind me, and we have decided that we want to continue to tell the story here in Othello, and we're going to make sure that you guys as a community at least have a community newspaper to participate with. I don't expect everybody to buy in this from the very beginning. I totally get it. It's very hard to let the outlook go and that piece of history here. But what I can promise you, what we will be able to do is put a publisher here on the ground in Othello. I'm going to hire a brand new position. It's going to pay very well. They're going to live here in this community. They're going to participate here in this community. They will be Rotarians, Lions, Kiwanis, whatever club they happen to choose. They will be here attending city council or school boards. They will be attending city councils. They will be taking pictures and photos of all the great things that go on here in Othello. I don't have that right now, but I assure you I will as soon as I can find that person. So the Sun Tribune newspaper, which you probably all saw for the first time last week, is really going to be your community newspaper. And it's going to be very bumpy as we throw some resources behind this. Running a newspaper is very expensive. And I think that you guys have seen history here in Othello, how challenging it can be financially for a newspaper. And which is what makes us very unique, because we are in the business of doing this. And I myself am in the business of doing this. And with the connections I've had here in Othello and the pieces now that I have behind me, we will absolutely make this work. It will be bumpy. It's going to take us a month or two to really figure out how we can position Othello News the way you guys want your story told. It will all really come down to when I have that publisher in place. So with that being said, I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, but I would like you to throw out some questions if you have anything you would like to know or have some clarification on.
So, as the board thinks of some questions, I have a couple right off the top of my head, Eric. And so,
Yes,
there's no timeline then until a publisher is hired. Is that?
that's right. I'm going to keep it open. I'm not going to band-aid it. I want to make sure that I find the right person that will be able to, again, live here in this community and participate here in this community. We will open an office here. We will have the paper. It's in process of being adjudicated in Adams County as a legal newspaper. The city of Othello tonight will vote for their legal newspaper. Fingers crossed it's us. You know, there's a number of factors that come into with them making that decision, but we do have commitment from Adams County that when we are adjudicated a legal newspaper, that they will then start running those same legals they ran in the Outlook with us. We've also had a number of advertising support. Most of the larger advertisers from the Outlook have migrated over to the Sun Tribune and our Basin Register, which maybe a lot of you have gotten here over a while. It's our shopper. Looks like a newspaper. It's got inserts in it. Really sharp product. As well, all Outlook subscribers, we are honoring their subscriptions through the term of when it expires. So if somebody still has a year on their Outlook subscription, then guess what? You're going to get the Sun Tribune for a year. And we're very confident that after that term expires, that reader will resubscribe and continue to enjoy their Othello news. So that's the plan as of now. Since there is no, you know, we didn't have this plan. It was really, when this happened, we had to move really super fast, and we really were just chasing it. We've had a ton of support from here in Othello, and we're just trying to ride that wave, and really, we cannot do this without you guys buying into this. I can't come down here and say, Othello, here's your new newspaper. No way. It's got to be part of this community. It has to be community driven. The readers are what will make this successful. The advertisers will just kind of keep it going. There's not a whole lot of revenue to be able to, you know, turn this into some big monster newspaper, but that's not the point. The point really is to keep telling the story of Othello, and that's our focus. Go ahead.
So Eric, just quickly, because you mentioned that they will be covering city council and board. Those are held at the same time on the same day.
Yes, they are.
How will you have someone here and someone there if you're only hiring one person?
That is a great question. We have resources. As you can see, Cheryl over here is one of our daily reporters. We have commitment from my editorial team that they are going to participate in this process. And when we have conflicts with two, you know, fairly important events in an evening, then we will split those resources, and we will have either a CBH reporter cover city council, while that individual is able to cover school board. Low battery. Can I keep going, or should I wait because you guys want to be on record? It's up to you.
Just give us a couple seconds. sure that'll work for now until we figure this out.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Awesome. So back to the splitting resources. I have several reporters behind us on the daily side. 4 to 5 to 6 different reporters, depending on how fully staffed we are. So when we have those challenges, we will split resources. And what's very unique about us taking that role on is on the CBH side, we will also tell this story in the daily newspaper. So your news and information is going to go out quicker and in a more timely manner, and it's going to even reach a larger audience in addition to reaching your hyper local readers here in Othello.
Thanks, Eric. Is there any other questions from board members?
All right, good.
All right. Thank you very
Thanks,
much
yeah,
for
thanks.
the presentation. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item C1. Before I ask for a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda, I did, as you have noticed, there's a couple board members that are missing this evening. Did get a phone call from one board member that wanted to pull item 1-20 from this evening's consent agenda and add it either to a workshop soon prior to the next board meeting, or include it in our next board meeting so that all 5 board members are here to hear his explanation as to why he wants to pull it. So with that said, I will ask for approval of this evening's consent agenda with item 1-20 be removed to a prior date that we will discuss as a board in a few minutes.
Is that a motion?
It is. So I will go ahead and make the motion to pull item 1-20 from consent agenda for another day, either a workshop or board meeting.
Second.
So motion's been made by President Garza and seconded by Director Hilmes. I'm sorry, Director Simmons.
Sorry.
And any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Item C, moving on to item C2, business informational items. Is there any questions or comments from the board for Dr. Hurst in item C2? Okay.
None from me.
Okay. Moving on to item C3, curriculum and instruction. These are items involving our Othello Summer School Migrant ELL LAP Title I enrichment. Is there any questions or comments? Nope. Okay.
Well, okay, yeah, one question. Actually, I think this is more information than we've typically gotten after summer school. What I'm curious about is if we currently are planning to in the future measure really what the success of summer school was. Like we had a certain amount of students start here and end here, or we found that summer school helped these students in the following year. I've never heard that. It'd be interesting. I know we've talked about it before, but I don't want to ask you, Dr. Hurst, if you have plans to kind of track the success of summer school in that way.
Yes, absolutely. So I think the plan, I articulated or alluded to it, I think last board meeting, we were talking about some of the structures we're putting in place just to measure progress throughout So various data points. So that includes summer school. So we're a big believer that everything should be measured so we can present not only to the board of directors but to the community our progress in all areas. So not only summer school, but we're looking at all of OSD really being measured and shared out with the public.
I will also note that these informational items have been very helpful as a board member. I know this is more information that we're used to seeing, but it really alleviates many questions that I would have. So thank you for those additions. Moving on to item C4, Superintendent Report.
Yes, we're very excited. We wanted to share with you just a summary of what happened in our leadership retreat this past week, August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I'm not going to cover the document in detail. There's 7 pages, but I wanted to highlight some things with you. So the first part of the page, it talks about our objectives. There were 3 objectives. You can see that we were, number 1, identifying our core values and our teachable points of view. We're also looking at building an instructional vision. The second day, we were really looking at that teachable point of view and using that information to draft a vision for instruction. And then the third day, we actually jumped right into data to establish our priorities for the district. So I wanted to just kind of talk to you about teachable point of view so you understand what that is. And I gave an example with all the principals and the directors and shared that a teachable point of view is simply what are those events and experiences that have shaped you as a person throughout your life. And I shared 3 specific occasions, one with my father and how I watched him as I was growing up as a young man and how he trained people, how he led people, how he wore his uniform, how he talked to the kids, how he trained us, how he gave us certain values that was important to him, how he set goals, even later on in life. And I share with the principals also that my father passed of cancer, but also he was the person, even through that experience, he set a goal of writing a book. And 2 weeks before he passed, he actually published his book. So he was a man of integrity, certainly a man who led with love and compassion and with purpose in his life. And he shared with me how to set goals, how to be a person of integrity, how to lead with love and purpose also, and how to be disciplined and how to be focused. Because sometimes when people look at me, they see, oh, he's a Marine. That's where he gets all his values, but not the case. I share with the principals, really it was my father that shaped who I am today. So when we talk about teachable point of view, that's what we really mean. What are those things in our life that have shaped us to who we are today? And then I shared also with the principals, not only did my father shape the person I am today, but also the system in San Diego. Large system is a failing system, and it was going to that school system from an affluent area where I saw the travesty in education. I saw the inequities in education, and that got me to think bigger, that it's more about the system. How do we create and shape a system so that it's healthy? And then the last person that shaped who I am is Dr. Crew. And I met him during my doctorate degree, and he really shared with me to think bigger. And it's really about not just ensuring that our students graduate college ready and career ready, but ensuring that students graduate with the skills that's going to prepare them to compete with anyone else across the world, the globe. So that's teachable point of view. That's really important because those TPOVs we call, they actually lead to our core values. What are our beliefs? And before you can construct an instructional vision, you have to know your fundamental beliefs, your values, your morals, and all of that tied to creating our instructional vision. So as you look through this document, I just want to point out a couple of pages to you. So now that you understand teachable point of view, we actually led the teachers through a series of activities. Some of the activities was technology generated, some was English language arts, and some was mathematics. But all of them was designed to think about teachable points of view, what are your core values, and then we transition from regular core values to what are your instructional core values, and what are the effective elements of instruction. So what are those elements that we know that teachers should be doing or teaching with our students? So one of the things I wanted to share with you, some of the things that came out from the teachers, and they said, first and foremost, what's really important to our teachers is our students should be reading. Um, we should show compassion. There should be risk without ridicule. We should have skilled teachers, language development, global preparation of our students, effective and reflective questioning, release of responsibility. Those are some of the things that came out. When you go down to the next page, you can also see there were some other common themes through some other various activities that the principals shared. They believe that our students should be in an occurring environment, that it's about relationships, collaboration, should be built-in opportunities for every student. We should believe in our students. Again, you hear reading comprehension coming up. Again, high expectations for all. And again, all of these activities were very important because once you identify your core values and then you transition to your instructional core values and you have those key elements, then you can start devising, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take our key elements and construct an instructional vision. The instructional vision is important because it's what we do in the classroom with our students, the tasks that they're working on, which is really going to get us to our district priorities, and then the personal vision that I brought in also. Keep going down, you can see on one page, you'll see a saucer, and you'll see a lot of different bubbles. You can see it on the screen here. And that represents our current reality. And what we did is we sent out a message to the principals, and we asked them if there were 10 things that you could take off your plate, what would be those 10 things? Or if there's 10 things that's challenging for you as a principal, what would you name? And these are some of the things that they shared. And you can see they have the whole gamut from PSYOP to Read 180, the 7-period day, next generation science standards. You can see the plate is running over. And you can see the quote from Abraham Lincoln, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And that's really where we are right now. That's how we feel, that our plates are too full, too many things that we're trying to juggle. What can we remove from our plates? So this is important because the instructional vision that was crafted gives the district clarity and coherence. And I want to point you to the slide that has the daily news. So this was an activity also. The question was asked, if we would have to write an article about where we would be in instruction 5 years from now, what would it read? What would it say? So this is what they said. Instruction in Othello School District prepares 100% of students to excel in all professional pathways. So not just giving them skills for college, career, but also, like we said, preparing them to compete with other students across the globe. You can see also some other summary of our thinking, and we really was trying to solidify what the thinking was about effective instruction. So when you see that in red, that's some more information that we came up with from our principals. And then if you go down to where you see the filter tests. So this piece was important because all of the information that I shared with you about what's on our plates as leaders and as teachers in our district, and even in the future when we ask the question, what comes into our district from this point forward? What initiative comes forward? What program comes forward? It has to pass the instructional vision test. So we had the facilitators ask some important questions about, does it pass this test? So you can see some of the questions that we have. Does the initiative coming into the district impact teachers, and which teachers? What percent of teachers are impacted by the initiative? What percent of students are impacted by the initiative? What are the fiscal ramifications also of bringing in this initiative? That's important. And then also you can see at the top is, does it pass the vision test? So when we construct our vision, does it align with the instructional vision? What we said the effective elements of instruction are. Is it research based? Does it pass the instructional core test? Meaning looking at the relationship between the teacher, the student, and the content. Does it pass that test also? So we had that conversation. So based on all the work of the teachable point of view, looking at our core values, looking also at whether or not it passed this filter test, we were able to actually devise and write a statement, a draft statement. So you can see there a draft of the statement, and we have refined this also, but you can kind of see we took those words where we said these are the elements of effective instruction. You can see some common themes. We want respect, a respectful environment, rapport. So we're talking about relationships. We want our instruction to be intentional. We want it to be rigorous, challenging, and we want it to be accessible. All students should have access to a rigorous course of study. And then as you scroll down, you can see on day 3, after we constructed the vision, the instructional vision, well, we had to decide what we were going to focus on first. Because remember the diagram where you saw all the items on the plate? We can't do it all as a district. So we had to really synthesize and narrow down how we're going to focus on a couple of things. So what better way to do that than by looking at the data? So we had the principals had access to a number of data points, and we had the facilitators walk us through a data analysis protocol, which led to us identifying 2 priorities for the district that we're going to focus on. The first is reading comprehension, and then the second will be related to mathematics. Talk with P. Perez today. We're going to really talk with principals a little bit further. He's going to have that conversation with principals and really solidify what area of mathematics. Right now we're thinking about concepts and procedures, but that may not be it. He's going to have those conversations with the principals and really dig a little bit deeper to see what that second area. And that's going to be the areas that we're going to focus on together as a community. And we're going to do extremely well. And we're going to really filter out everything else. Doesn't mean that we're getting rid of everything all at once, but as we share with the principals, there'll be some hard conversations that we'll have. We'll look at the data, we'll look at all programs, but then at the very end we'll say, these things will stay based on the data. They are having an impact on students. These things have to go. So everything will be based on our instructional vision, and that will get us closer and closer to the vision or the strategic priorities. So we're very proud of the work that happened over those 3 days. Next steps is actually putting everything into place and coming up with an accountability structure, and also allowing the principals to carry this message to their schools, to the principals, to their teachers. And P. Perez will be working with the principals to actually craft their leadership message that will be delivered to all the teachers throughout the school. Questions?
Looks like this was a packed 3 days.
It's a packed 3 days. It's a great 3 days, a lot of great work. It's important for our direction for the district, very important.
I'll just say, Dr. Hurst, that when I went through these over the weekend, I was just incredibly impressed. I mean, I think this is the right direction for us to go, and I'm excited, extremely excited to see where the district is going. So, great job.
I appreciate you sharing the information with us.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
To know really the details of the discussions and is something new for us.
ROI, I know you told us it was going to cost us a little bit. What do you think there? Everybody participated, everybody bought
So
in.
right now, we don't have a cost right now.
That was a joke.
Okay, okay.
You mentioned it cost us a little more this first year, and I needed to. No, this,
There's gonna be a cost savings also. So once we evaluate all of our
Absolutely.
programs, we're gonna be cutting some things that we just need to get rid of.
no, appreciate the info, the feedback, and um, by looking at this, I mean, everybody there contributed, participated, and uh, I'm eager to the continuation of this.
Yes.
You know, where everything falls into place with the new plans that are coming forth, and great to see. Go ahead and take them all next year. That's fine.
That's all right. I also wanted to share with you, I did leave out a next step, and that is talking with the teachers. It's very important that we get their thinking on this also. So you notice I kept saying this is in draft form. So next week we'll be leading a process with the teachers that want to come, and we invited everyone, one and all, to come to Desert Oasis. We'll sit down with them, and we'll share with them the details of the process. We'll present to them the draft version of the vision and the priorities, and we want to get their thinking also because they're a big part of it. Once we get their thinking, we'll finalize our instructional vision and we'll finalize our priorities. We want to hit the ground running day one with everyone knowing this is our work for the year, this is our instructional vision, and all of us are going to just keep focused on that. So we're very excited.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. And you also have an update for HiCap?
Yes, we do. And we're going to ask Brooke French to come and provide that update.
Good evening. All right, so first of all, I want to start off and let you know that we are in compliance with HiCap, with OSPI. So with the state, everything looks great. Form 217, that is our HiCap annual plan. That was completed last year. If you remember, we were out of compliance when I was hired, and then I fixed some things, and now we're in compliance. Now, something that's different, the WAC that you shared with me that ends in at 20, that states that every district must have an annual plan. Now that was started in or effective in April of 2013. Things change. So OSPI, HiCap decided to change things a bit to make it easier on districts. So they wouldn't have to turn in a fiscal plan or an annual plan every single year. So they created Form 778, which they just came out with in June, July. And now just like you, I was not sure whether this would meet the 217 because this is new and I want to make sure we stayed in compliance. I emailed Jody Hess, who is a director over at HiCap with OSPI, and she assured me through emails that, and I shared those with Chris Hurst, that yes, OSD is still in compliance. We did not need to turn in another annual plan where the school board would approve it. Now again, this is new. Okay, so I have her confirmation that yes, everything we're doing is correct. July 15th, 778 came out, and this is the assurance plan. So this is where I read through it, and I mark that yes, OSD is in compliance, that yes, we're going to continue to do things that we said we were going to do, and this is given back to OSPI. It's under review right now, so I've done everything that I can that they've asked me to. Now the annual plan will change only when there is the CPR. And at that time, we need to review it and make sure that there are no major changes that need to be made. If we do make any major changes, then yes, we do need to turn in a plan annually.
What would you consider major changes?
So I know after talking to Jody Hess, some districts are still out of compliance with their identification, let's just say, and so they have to completely change that and add that to their plan and provide steps in order to identify students, and that would be a major change.
So my memory of the annual plan that we approved last year had an expectation of a fairly high number of students in grade levels, and when we actually did the testing, those numbers were quite different. So is there no need to adjust it based on what we see actually happen?
I think this is a great opportunity for our new assistant superintendent and our new superintendent to meet in a workshop with myself, and then we can review the plan or we can discuss anything further that we might want to take a look at. I don't think it hurts to take a look at the plan over and over.
And as far as compliance, I never worried that we were in compliance with the state, but the current plan as written last year is, I mean, I just have to let the superintendent know that it's not in compliance with board policy EL 20. And so that was just something that I thought that was, I want to make sure that Dr. Hurst knew. So that's really up to Dr. Hurst to handle that part. With the WAC law that says, I'll bring it up here. This says the district's plan for students who are highly capable shall be annually approved by formal action of the district board of directors. You're saying
That's
that law is no longer
170-20. Is that correct?
25.
25? Yeah, when it says annually, that's the one I believe that was in April of 2013, and that's when it was effective. As of right now, all of the I-grants that I've looked at, because of that change, we do have to have an annual plan. However, we do not have to have board approve it every year unless there's a major change. We do not have to change anything to it every year.
So are you sure that it's not that you don't have to have OSPI approve it every year? Because that's -20.
Correct.
And then -25 is that the board has to approve it.
So the WACs are out of date according to the I-grants. So I've talked to Jody Hess, and I have the emails to say, just to say, are you sure this is all I have to do in order to stay in compliance? And she said, yes, the 778, this was back in June, is coming out, and it came out in July, and that is what you have to do, unless there are major changes you make to your annual plan. Again, this is brand new.
I would think that Washington state law would supersede a I-grant, but I personally, as a board member, would like to see the plan. Even if it's the same as last year, if they've been tweaked, I'd just like to see what the plan is for this upcoming year. So whether it's to be in compliance or not, I don't know if the rest of the board feels that way.
Even if
if we don't have to approve it, that's fine.
That's great. I think,
don't know if the rest of the board feels that way.
yeah, then we should have a workshop where we meet together and discuss those things. That'd be great.
And I guess to piggyback on something that you mentioned and that Rob brought up, what are major changes consist of? I mean, what are those major changes? I mean, is there a list of items?
So the 778, it's the assurance plan, and what I have to go through is check off that yes, we will agree to do this, which is follow our plan. We will agree to do this, which is another checklist. So those are some major things. If there's something there that's by state, such again identifying students, and we're not in compliance or we don't have that, and you would be amazed at districts that don't have a high cap program. We'd have to create one, and those are some major changes. But I definitely think that yes, we can take a look at the plan, and if we need to, we can tweak it, as long as it's in compliance with the state.
So you did the I-grant 778 already? Is that what you're saying? Or?
Yes, and it's in review right now with OSPI. It was due on August 1st.
If you stated in there that you're going to follow the old plan, and now the plan changes in a workshop coming up, then what?
If it's a major change, and I will double check to see what a major change would include, then we would turn it in for not this year, but we turn it in for the next year.
Okay.
And that would have to be approved through the board.
Great. Any other questions? Thank you so much, brother. Appreciate it. Right. Is there any other questions for Dr. Hurst under his superintendent report? If not, we'll move on.
Let me get back to it.
Okay.
No. Not for me.
Moving on to item C5 then, director discussions. First on our list is legislative report. And I know that we have a brand new legislative rep, and so we'll give him some mercy this time.
Failed in my first report. I have a request. Dr. Hurst, could you make sure that our legislative rep is updated with WASDA? And I think then probably I'll start getting the updates, the TWIO updates through my email, which will be a good reminder for me to make sure I come up with something to talk about in an important meeting.
Okay. We also have one action item under director discussions, and that is Superintendent Juarez's evaluation. And so there's a copy of it under director discussions. So
I move to approve the 2015-2016 school year superintendent evaluation. BSR, I think it's supposed to be 5.1, but
right. So motion's been made by Director Simmons to approve Superintendent Juarez's evaluation for 2015-2016 BSR 5.1, seconded by Director Mike Garza. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 3-0. There's also a note here, and I'm assuming that there's policy governance, some discussion regarding policy governance, and so
that was my item. If you want me to,
yeah, if you could
speak to it. My computer just froze up. Yours? I think it might have been Director Ashton that brought up a recommendation that we have some kind of training so that Dr. Hurst can be informed on policy governance and start to be trained on that. And then I was going through policies yesterday and came across that's not the one I came across. One of our policies states that the board will be responsible for excellence in governance. And so what I was wondering is how the board feels about us actually running the workshop, so that hopefully by now, I mean, we're 2.5 years into policy governance, we can explain it fairly well as a board, and then also give Dr. Hurst an idea of things specific to fellow school district as well, with how we operate under policy governance. And so I know someone can come in like they did with us and just give a general background about policy governance, but he's still got a lot to learn then about how does it operate in a fellow. So kind of an idea I had is that we as a board lead that. Maybe each board member could have an item that they report on. If the board members aren't comfortable with, that's fine, but that was just an idea I had. I want to see what your guys' thoughts were.
Obviously, I think that's a great idea. My question is, what would the topics be? So there's 5 board members. Would we break it down into 5 different topics, and how much time do we have so that we can begin to prepare ourselves? And again, I'd like to discuss this further with the entire board present, just to get their idea. And so, but I think it's a wonderful idea.
I myself, I'd like to get the outside training, since when I came on board, it was like learn as you go. I haven't seen the official presentation when you guys started. So if there's something available where I can see it from the start, I'd rather something like that. Because I mean, if I'm asked to present something to Dr. Hurst a month from now, I'd be wanting to learn myself.
Would you be comfortable with, I know you did come on after that training, if the 4 board members who attended the training, they'll just
Absolutely
explain that as well. I mean, I'm just looking at it as there's a cost to the district to have someone come in, plus there's one advantage to it, I think, is that as board members who are reporting on it, it's just going to solidify it in our minds, because we're going to do some research to make sure we're giving a good presentation, and just I think it'll make us understand even more strongly.
So would you like to include this as an item in our next board meeting to discuss? Or do you want to do a workshop prior to the next board meeting?
I don't think it has to be done right away necessarily. I think it should be done within the next couple months for sure, but maybe a suggestion I would have for you is maybe to contact board members and ask, what do you think are important things that need to be discussed? And then based on the feedback you get, you could say, okay, I can categorize this into maybe just 4 categories. And because if Mike is not comfortable presenting, then there's 4 of us that can. But, and then just and you could ask board members what items they think they're comfortable in presenting.
So I have to ask Dr. Hurst, is between now and 2 months okay with you, or do you want something a little sooner?
So I can share that there's a couple of different areas that I'm actually seeking to refine my skills on. One of them is definitely policy governance. There's a few other areas also. I think within the next few months, that would certainly be reasonable for us to get together and just kind of hash it out, policy governance, and really the Othello way also. So I'm interested in that. So I like the idea of doing an internal workshop. I do like the idea of also of hearing experts, but I believe some of us have already been trained by the experts. So I'm certainly willing and ready. 2 months is good. That'll work.
Okay, so I will be in contact with the rest of the board and get back to you, Dr. Hurst, as far as a date.
Sounds good.
All right. One thing, go ahead.
Well, I know there are the 3 of us that agree to this. Mike wouldn't mind having it from one of the experts. If the other 2 board members say, no, I want to have the experts, I understand. That's we can definitely do it that way.
Okay. I will keep that in mind and let you know. One thing I want to add to that is not under director discussions is, since we've pulled an item from consent agenda, I'd like to discuss with the board an opportunity for a workshop prior to the next board meeting to discuss this item. And so I did reach out to the 2 board members that are absent. Director Ashton gets back Thursday night and Director Hilmes gets back Monday morning. And so I'd like just to poll the board that is here and ask if Monday night would work for a workshop. And then for me to try and get a hold of the 2 absent board members and see if Monday night would work. Now, is that something that would work for you as well?
Well, before you answer that, my first question would be, are we under any kind of a time?
Well, that was a question that I was going to ask Dr. Hurst. Is there some time constraints regarding this item?
You want to talk about the time constraints, Ms. Bullis?
Okay, so the question that wasn't asked that I'm going to go ahead and start with, the time for this bid and the starting of the project a little bit later than, well, quite a bit later than what original planned. What was presented last spring to the board was I was not aware of the extent of engineering and getting an architect involved. Up until this last February, we've had a project manager contracted with the school district. So just going out and getting bids with tennis court vendors was not basically the route to go. So involving Architects West and actually having documents and engineering work done to take it out to bid is what took place between May and when we got the bids in the end of July. So that's the time frame differential that we're looking at. I spoke to one of the contractors today who was following up on the potential bid award and got an idea of basically the work, the timeline. Our window of getting the courts in this fall is closing pretty quick. The projection was if we could get a notice to proceed within the next week, realizing that we were going to table it tonight, then he was really confident. If he's the apparent low bidder, but that depends on what kind of alternates we take. But everything could be done by the middle of October. The only component that may be shelved would be, depending on weather, whether they could do that top coat. So he indicated that the work could be done where the asphalt could be poured by the 3rd to 4th week in September, which would give enough time to cure the asphalt. But then you need a 2 or 3 week window of time with a certain weather temperature to put that overcoat on. But he said a lot of times when they install courts in the fall, they get to that point and then have to table that actual tennis court surface, and they could do that in the spring. And it's about a 2 to 3 week cure time for that. So to answer your question, there is kind of a time constraint.
So I guess my question then would be, I'm not sure what the concern is of the board member that wanted to pull this item. If for some reason the board does not pass or go with this bid and we open it again, then are we strictly out of getting it started at least this year?
I would say yes. We wouldn't have the courts ready for next
Season, tennis season.
Yes.
So the architect process took 2 months to design it? Is that what you were explaining when you first were?
Yes, because they came in and did engineering, and there's quite a bit more to the process than I realized. Hence I'm not a project manager, but I didn't realize that it was going to be that extensive to get it ready to put it out to bid. And Architects West rallied to get it done. Basically, it would have been ready to go out to bid. It was originally set up to go out to bid on the 8th of July, which the original plan was to have it ready to bring to the board on the 25th of July, but we didn't. There were several large projects that were bidding at the same time, and there were no bidders because it's not that big of a job. And Architects West called me and asked me if they basically said, we have nobody that's looking to really bid this. If we put it out another week to actually extend the bid date a week, we would have 5 to 6 contractors, which that decision was made so that we'd have some contractors to actually bid on the work.
Will you be available, Gina, if we decide to have a workshop?
Yes, I will make sure I'm available.
As far as I know, I'm available Monday.
I will contact the other 2 board members and then confirm with Dr. Hurst, and then he'll let you know when the workshop will be. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item C6, announcements. So August 22nd, the board meeting is in this district boardroom at 7 p.m. There's also a new teacher breakfast at Othello High School corridor at 7:15 a.m. and typically the board is invited, and so I'd like to take a role here of board members that would be present at the new teacher orientation so that Dr. Hurst would know.
New teacher breakfast.
I'm sorry, new teacher breakfast.
Will there be bacon?
Yes. Yes.
I'll be there.
Yes, for me.
So yes for you, Doctor? Or
Yes.
Okay. So far the 3 of us will be there. I'll ask the other 2 board members.
How many new teachers will be at this? Dr. Hurst, you know?
How many new teachers do we have? 51?
Oh.
Is there room for us?
We'll make some room.
All right.
Awesome. Moving on. August 23rd is the all-staff orientation at McFarland Middle School at 7:30 a.m. And all board members should be present at that event as well. If not, plan on being there because you will be introduced. And then November 17th, 18th, and 19th is our WASDA school board conference. I believe we've already been registered. And does that include our student reps? Thank you very much. I believe most of us have the information that we need for that conference. Is there any announcements that I'm missing, board members?
No. Remind me though, we are registered and hotels.
Hotel and.
Did we get emailed the hotel confirmations? Okay. Did we get those?
on to item D1, EL8, budget planning report. And I have, is that it? Gina will present on that?
Yes, Gina's going to be presenting. Ms. Bullis.
So I'm just going to give a real brief. Normally, in the past, the budget has been available by the first or the board meeting in July. By law, I don't know which RCW off the top of my head, we have to have the budget adopted by the end of August. So there's always been built-in extra time. So tonight, the package or the presentation is included for you to preview any questions initially, but we also have the next board meeting. I would like to note that the budget has been prepared in compliance with EL8. So the items that are addressed through, I think there's 10 different components of EL8, and so it's been prepared in compliance with that. And I don't know if there's any initial questions related to the budget.
I don't. I haven't had a chance to really go through it in detail, so I don't have any questions yet.
And again, that's kind of the idea, is give it to you early, and I can do a more thorough presentation or answer questions between now and the next board meeting or at the next board meeting.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to make a general statement, and this is something that is going to be, when we have this workshop, we'll know more. But this, I don't know that this could be considered a monitoring report, and so we may still want to have a monitoring report in the next board meeting. Dr. Hurston, what I'll kind of go over with you a little bit, maybe this evening after the board meeting, about
Awesome.
what I mean by that. But this is the budget, right?
Right.
And so the monitoring report would just be explaining how the budget was. You would be explaining how you're in compliance with the EL.
Oh, got it.
Is all it is.
Got
and
it.
My memory is the EL8 monitoring report is a fairly short report.
Got it.
The proof
Awesome.
is in the budget itself, the fact the budget was done.
Awesome.
And Gina, I'll pull the absent board members and see if they have, and we'll review what's been sent to us, and if there's any questions, we'll include them in our next board meeting.
And it is, I mean, you probably have noticed, I know you only see it once a year, but it's in the same exact format that we've used in the past.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item E1, policy review. And I believe, and for the sake of time, unless one of you want to stop at a certain policy, but I don't believe there's any recommended changes to any of the policies that are under policy review. EL1 is global end, and then E1, I'm sorry, is global end. EL1, item E2 is students first. Let me do it this way. EL1, is there any recommended changes by the board? Okay, moving on to item E2. EL1, students first, is there any recommended changes? Okay, moving on to item E3, EL4. Any recommended changes by the board? Okay, moving on to item E4, EL5, staff treatment. Is there any recommended changes? Okay, moving on to item E5, GP1, governance, commitment, and beliefs. Is there any recommended changes? Okay, moving on to item E6, GP2, governing style. Is there any recommended changes?
This was the one that came up when we were going over it last week. Item number 5 in this policy says at the first regular meeting following certification of election of directors, the board shall elect from among all its members a president and vice president to serve 1-year terms. We have always done that first meeting in December. And it says, but it says, and a legislative representative to serve 2-year terms. We've always done legislative representative in June.
Right.
And I was looking for, I remember it seemed like that was a WAC or RCW. Maybe it's not, but maybe it's strictly a policy. So what we need to do is either start following this policy or change it to say legislative rep will serve 2-year term, but will be elected in June. I also would say we probably should have in here our WIAA rep, since talking
Yes.
about electing representatives and a board or a student rep mentor. So my recommendation is, I don't have necessarily a recommended change right now because I want to see what the board's feelings were, if that should all be done at one time. You know, that
I'll say that I would, as a board member, would rather have the legislative rep, WIA, and a mentor to student reps elected in June, because our WASDA conference is in November, and usually there's great sessions for new reps. And if we wait till December, then they're reps an entire year before they get to the next WASDA conference. So that's kind of my idea. I would rather. And so if that requires us to change this policy, then I'd be glad to make a change to it. But if, are you guys?
Yes, I think that'd be the better way to go.
Yeah, and I think the June date is a good idea. I believe that the legislative rep was June because typically the legislature is done, but we know for the past many sessions they go past that. So my only fear is that you appoint a new legislative rep in the middle of a legislative session. So that would be my only concern with that. And that would have been the case for the last 5 years, right?
Right.
The student rep makes sense in June because there's new student reps coming on, or it could even be July or August. If it's not in law, maybe July or August is even a better idea because usually then legislatively things are done by then, even in extended session.
That's a good point.
And WIA, I don't know, before the school year also maybe is the best time to do that. I don't really know when those changes, when WIA meets with their yearly, well, actually they meet more than that, but make big changes themselves.
Right. Well, there is the they always meet at the WASDA conference, and so that's
right.
a good opportunity. So I agree with you, and I think let me pull the other two board members, unless it's unanimous here that we make the changes to either July or August.
I feel comfortable with making a change and not putting them with the officers, but if you'd like, I can do some research.
Okay.
Maybe just look historically when legislature has ended so that a new person comes in after that. And then also, well, that's really the only one, right?
Right.
I would want to know, so you've been WIA rep and Mike, you're right now. Is there a time when WIA might make some big rule changes where they meet in their big annual meeting?
There's always a big meeting prior to every sports season.
Yeah.
So
okay,
in
so
the
it's
fall,
throughout the year.
in the winter, and in the spring.
So August would work as well for them before, well, football starts in August. Maybe that one meeting in July would be the time to do it.
If you could look into that, that'd be great. And then let me know. I will bring forth then the possible changes. And so, Dr. Hurst, if for the next board meeting, you could keep GP2 under policy review, and I might by the next board meeting provide some changes, and then we'll.
So, new legislative rep who's going to ask a question that's silly, but is our legislative session over right now, or is it still going?
There's a new one that's about to begin.
Oh, so I mean, even August would be
okay.
Well, it would even be too early for a new one. Like the person right now, I'm coming into the middle of it, right? And that's exactly what my concern would be. To me, that one almost makes sense to do that in December because the new session is going to start in January, right?
Typically, but there's sessions that will start in the fall as well.
Okay. But the major session is over right now.
Yes, the major one.
Okay. Well, then
is in January.
And was it over by the end of July?
The last 2 years, it's been extended to mid-May. 2 years ago it didn't end until June.
So that's what I was saying. So it usually is. I think that July meeting could be the one. That's the one I'm going to shoot for when I do some research on it.
Okay, great. So moving on then. So we'll keep GP2 under policy review for next board meeting. Moving on to item E7, GP3, board job descriptions. Is there any recommended changes? Okay, moving on to item E8, GP4, monitoring board governance process and board superintendent relationship policies. Is there any recommended changes? Okay, moving on to item E9, GP 8.1, annual board calendar. any recommended changes?
Yeah, there was a minor change in this one. I think we just came across, or oh, okay. I'd come across it when I was researching what policies would be coming up at this meeting. Um, so, and this is I think a big part of what this workshop should entail, like explaining this calendar to Dr. Hurst, and also helping all of us as board members understand it. But you'll notice on the second column from the left, it says governance monitoring reports due. So I think Director Ashton's idea in developing this was that monitoring reports happen in the first meeting of the month. And the second meeting is more devoted to linkage and connecting with our community and staff. So if you notice, all the ELs and Ns are under monitoring reports. The reason being because BSRs and GPs are the board, we monitor ourselves on that. And so we wouldn't give ourselves a report. We'd instead just skip right to the Survey Monkey, where we just answer the Survey Monkey. I think there was an oversight on this. If you look all the way through this, at the bottom, August 14th of 2017, there's 2 GPs in that. So those GPs should not actually be in there, but they should be on the August 28th in the Survey Monkey, like they are. So that's the proper way to do it. So my recommended change would be to remove those 2 GPs from the monitoring reports. And I came across that just by accident because I was looking for what we're supposed to be doing for this meeting. So there may be other things in there, but those are some obvious ones right now. I thought if we don't change them, we're going to get them to them next year and realize we forgot.
So just so I understand, August 14th regular meeting, we have GP8, GP14, EL8, right?
Yep.
And so those need to be removed because they're already under.
We don't do monitoring reports for ourselves on the GPs. EL8 should be there, but it should be the only one. Okay. And the other thing that's missing in this is EL20. But what still has to happen is Dr. Hurst still has to look at this, and he may move the ELs. You may move the EL and Ns to different board meetings. But just remember that if you want them at a different date, that's fine. We're trying to keep the monitoring reports, though, to the first meeting of the month. That's the only thing to keep in mind.
So will you still then, Dr. Hurst, bring recommended changes at our August 22nd meeting as far as the calendar is concerned? Okay. So you want to wait till then? I mean, I think your remark is obviously we have to.
We can wait. This is a pretty simple change that Lucy can make right now, though. So, Lucy, if you just make the change to take out those 2 GPs, we're going to have to, we probably won't approve it the next meeting anyways because we're going to get more changes recommended. But it was in my mind. I didn't want us to forget it.
Perfect. Makes sense. Okay. So great. Moving on then to item F1. There will be a need for executive session for approximately 30 minutes.
Are we still doing that?
Well, it's still on here, and so that's why So yeah, my bad. There will not be a requirement for executive session.
Okay. It is in public content, though, so you were right about that.
Right. And so, okay, moving on then to item G1, board assessment of meeting. I know we had Director Hilmes designated to report this evening, but I've asked Director Mike Garza to do the board assessment of meeting.
Okay, this is our board self-assessment. The date of meeting, August 8th, 2016. Board members present, there was 3 of us. General meeting behavior. The agenda was well planned to focus on the real work of the board. That is commendable. The board followed its agenda and did not get sidetracked. That is commendable as well. The board's deliberations and decision-making processes were public. Commendable. Participation was balanced. All participated. No one dominated. I'll say good. Members listened attentively, avoided side conversations. Stewart wasn't here, so commendable. Governance principles review. Board actions occur at the policy level rather than operational, yes. The board reviews policies about each topic before discussing that issue, yes. In writing additional policies, the board starts with a broad statement and becomes more detailed in a logical and disciplined sequence. That's not applicable tonight. The board chair helps the board efficiently conduct its meetings, yes. The board supports the superintendent in any reasonable interpretation of its policies, yes. I am going to give us a commendable for our meeting tonight.
Great. Thank you, Director Garza. And moving on to item G2, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Director Simmons,
Second.
seconded by Director Mike Garza. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries 3-0. Good job, an hour and 15 minutes. All right, we are adjourned.